It's not the footwork. It's not the mechanics. It's not chemistry. It's the hair. It's gotta be the hair. And it goes like this. Put me in the game, I'm ready. I'll lead the team sure and steady with the hair like Jordan's. I've got the hair like Jordan's. I've got the hair like Jordan's. Skull cap so my sweat don't drip down. Hair flowing as I throw touchdowns with the hair like Jordan's. I've got the hair like Jordan's. I've got the hair like Jordan's.
Hello everybody, welcome to week 5 of Last Bull In. UB comes off an impressive victory over UCONN, taking on EMU this weekend, starting their MAC schedule. This week we'll recap the UCONN win. How did UB pull out such a great victory? We'll go around the MAC to see the teams that UB will play. We're also going to go a EMU guest blogger, a question and answer series. We're also going to do the Bulls versus the EMU matchup, the keys to the game, how UB should win this game. We'll also give you our predictions, the BruwPeg predictions of the game, and also give you our shout-outs. Well, let's take a look back at last week's action as UB blanked UCONN 41-12. Scored 28 points in the first half and most impressively kept UCONN off of the board on the second half, blanking them, while UB put up 13 points. Now, if you look just at the first downs based on rushing, passing, it was close. So UCONN had 14 first downs, UB had 15. But look at the rushing yards. It's unbelievable. UB with 153 yards to UCONN's 27. Now, a lot of their yards, they actually had 93 yards, but they had 66 yards brought back because either the sacks, which the defense did an amazing job of sacking the quarterback. So really, 93 yards gained really goes down to 27.07 yards per carry. Now, net passing yards, UCONN was actually 16 yards higher, 193 to 177. But the big difference was obviously 3 interceptions by UCONN to only 1 by Licata. The average per attempt was 8.7 versus 6.1. Let's take a look at the UB-UCONN offensive leaders. The rusher of the game was Brandon Oliver, 23 yards with 90 yards net, with a long of 21 with 3.9. Passing yards with Shan Whitmer, 10 of 24. He did throw 2 costly interceptions. Most importantly, he was sacked 5 times versus Joe Licata, 10 of 19, 177 yards, 1 interception, but he threw 3 TDs versus 0 sacks. Fred Lee with the leading receiver for UB with 3 catches, 51 yards, gorgeous TD. Alex Newts, 2 catches, 76 yards, 1 TD. But the receiver of the game was Jeremy Davis with 5 catches, 102 yards with a long of 34. Congratulations also goes out to Buffalo kicker Patrick Clark, named the MAC East Player of the Week, going 2 for 4 on field goals with connecting on 49 and 50 yards. UB received a second honor of the week from the MAC, naming the Defensive Player of the Week of the East Division, Buffalo safety Adam Redden. Adam had a great game, had 5 tackles, 2 sacks, 2.5 tackles for loss, forced fumble, and a fumble recovery. And he set the tone early with a great sack of the quarterback and getting the ball. Congratulations to Adam Redden.
Welcome, everybody. Let's talk about the great win of UCONN last week. Great win. Tim, let's get your takeaways. Tell me what you thought of the game, and why did UB win the game last week?
You know, I said last week it wasn't going to be Oliver running for 150 yards or Newts going for 150 that was going to make the big difference. The big difference was going to be having a second guy step up where we need him to, and obviously Redden, who has quietly been having a very good season, just exploded and changed that game in the first few minutes. And then on the other side of the ball, Fred Lee was a reasonable receiving threat and took, Alex Newts could have just 2 catches and UB still managed to sling the ball around. So those are my 2 big takeaways. If we start to have those secondary guys step up, all of a sudden it's a lot harder to scheme against Cleo Mack if you have to worry about Redden and Colby Way on the other side coming in, stripping the ball, and making their own kind of havoc in the backfield. So it was the most lopsided win of the Jeff Quinn era against a non-FCS team, even counting MAC win. Well, maybe the Akron win was more so. But in terms of quality and getting the most from players at every position, it was great. I actually like what Tepper did on defense. I know there were people griping about them playing soft in the middle coverage, but I think they did I think they did it right. They jammed at the line, they gave a little bit of safety help, and then they just turned the dogs loose. And if UConn got lucky with a circus catch down the field for 30 yards every once in a while, I think that was a responsible risk for Tepper to take. He did a lot towards getting out of the doghouse with me in how he handled UConn. Now, how he handles the next games, they're going to say whether or not UConn was really that bad, which they might be, or whether or not maybe this is a change in how Tepper decides to handle opposing defenses with what he has, which is a great pass rush.
I'm going to say the same thing as Tim, but I got there a different way. Secondary players were the key, but I still think it started with we got a 90-yard game from Brandon Oliver. We got a 76-yard game from Alex Newts. We need those two guys to do that, 100 yards and 100 yards, close to that. We can beat the Bowling Greens and the Ohios. We can get 100 from them each, and then we need the secondary players to step in, the tight ends and Fred Lee and whoever other number 2 wide receiver is. Same thing on defense. We got the secondary play from a guy. If they're going to double team Khalil Mack, then we're going to need Colby Way, Adam Redden, and Bo Bachell to come in and make big plays. And Bo had 2 sacks. Redden had 2 sacks, the strip sack and the recovery, and those were really the big plays. And again, we had Najee Johnson. I believe his second game interception consecutive. Courtney Lester got an interception, so he finally got his hands on the ball. And they had 9 interceptions combined last year. They have 3 already this year, so it's looking good for them. And like Tim said, playing the more aggressive style is helping our secondary. As we get more aggressive, in the front 7, our secondary is stepping up and playing better. So there's only really one real complaint I had from last game, and I don't know if you want to get into that.
The one thing I think we're all nice to see is some depth. And that's the one thing I think, 2 things we've always talked about is, 1, playing to potential, and 2, seeing some people other than the 5 or 6 stars that we talk about every single week step up and do something. So it was a great win. Tim, anything else? There's a lot of chirping fans saying, "Hey, where's everybody now? It's a big win." Listen, you've really given them a tough time when they've lost. Where's everybody stepping up now that they've won? Again, a lot of us have jaded hearts. We're waiting to see. Prove it to us, Jeff Quinn. Tim, your thoughts on that?
I don't want to say that it's jaded so much as reserved. I'm more than willing to step back and really want to believe that this team is going to turn a corner. And I think the next 2 games are going to tell us, are we the team that can consistently beat teams that are worse than us? And we have not been that team, right? And I think that's the first step. We were all over the place. So I had 600 posts on the game thread. I think there were 4 or 5 posts up before the end of the day Saturday from various people. There wasn't a lot of traffic on UB Fan because UB Fan it's an older set of people now. We all have families and lives, and we have a family that lets you sit down and watch the game and post on it and blog on it. You kind of spend the rest of the weekend enjoying life. You go out Saturday and the rest of the day is beautiful. Your team just beat UConn into the dust and got their coach fired. Sunday you're still feeling that good, but if the chatter's there, people want to believe in this team. People want to like Quinn as a whole. It's just he hasn't done it on the field. Conrad, I know, but the intent. Look, everyone who I know who has spent time with Quinn, outside of a few people, have said the guy's really intense. He's really driven. He makes you want to believe in him. Now he hasn't done anything to make us believe in him outside of be intense, right? Especially with the extension and how bad we're feeling, we're all stepping back saying, hopefully something gets made out of this. Hopefully something comes out of this that Danny White saw what he saw. But yeah, it's one win amongst a stretch of going 10-29. So jaded's not the wrong word. Maybe just we need a little bit more to believe. We want to believe. We're just not there yet.
I think it's act like you've been there before. and we've been here before with Quinn, which is we've gotten big victories. His first big win against against the FCS team, his first year, was really impressive, and we were going to see this big spread offense, and then we never saw it again. The second year, we got that big defining win over Ohio at home, the MAC East champion, and then we went on to lose a bunch of games after that. We saw it in the hall for years, beating teams like UConn and Rutgers, and then going 1-10 and 1-11. So it's just one win against a team that was so bad they fired the coach right after. So there's no need to do a Gatorade shower. There's no need to storm the field, and there's no need to talk about it ad nauseum like it's the best thing that happened or that the season is already validated. And then again, act like you've been there before. Win, you ask the Buffalo News, losses and misery sell more papers than wins because all you're supposed to do is win. And I went, like I said, I went after the game and took a nap, happy, satisfied, and didn't check UB Fan again until Monday. I don't think I posted it again until Monday. It was a good, happy weekend versus the week before. It was a really bad weekend, and there's a lot of I needed the community to help me get through that week. So, yeah, I mean, we've been there before, and until we get through this stretch of completely winnable games with that record that we all want, I'm not really going to celebrate this season.
I think a lot of us we see the potential, we see the talent, and I think a lot of us have been very frustrated seeing what this team could do and not realizing the potential. So great point. And tempered, maybe we're using that because of the defensive coordinator, we're tempering our expectations of this team. Next thing I'd like to talk about is we're going to talk about, obviously, Buffalo right now is in the meat of the MAC schedule. This is the time when Buffalo needs to start winning games to prove to us that this team is for real. So, Tim, why don't you take one of the MAC teams that Buffalo's going to play the rest of the season, have a conversation, tell us about that game, tell us about who we're playing against, educate us, and last Bull In about a MAC team.
I watched I caught a little bit of the Kent and Western Michigan game. Basically, I like a good car wreck as much as the next guy. And what P.J. Fleck has done so far in Western Michigan is as close to a car wreck as you'll see in college football. It's always been a pretty respectable program. Bill Cubit never got them all the way over the top, but they were always a contender. Yeah, there are a lot of reasons they struggle this year. I think Fleck has not done himself a service by, rowing the boat and calling out attention to himself and not setting expectations with the fan base where they should have been, which is this is a rebuilding season. We've lost one of the best quarterbacks we've ever had. We lost a lot of players. We have injuries, and I'm a new guy, and this is going to be a difficult year. So, I don't think they're going to stay down forever, even this year. But the other reason I watched them is, of course, because Kent was playing them, and that's another future opponent we have. And Dree Archer is back, and we talked last week about would he be 100%? How long would it take him? He's not 100% Dree Archer yet, but he's someone who can put up 6 yards a carry and get 50 yards catching and a touchdown. So by the time we play Kent, I think we have to expect that they're going to be a markedly better offensive team than they've been so far this year because Archer is that good. I mean, he is that dynamic and he adds that much to so many elements of their offense. Western Michigan made it respectable early, but Kent was just too much. They also had Durham. Durham also had 150 yards on 26 carries. So Kent can hurt you a lot of ways, and the question was how long would it take them to be the team they were offensively last year? I think by midseason it's reasonable. I think Kent is stepping forward and showing that, they have that loss to Bowling Green, but they can still be a threat in the MAC East race if Bowling Green trips up and Kent gets to form.
Hey, Tim, quick question. Do you see Archer one day maybe playing Sundays?
I've given up on guessing on that because there's so much that goes into making an NFL player versus a good college player. Like you look at Oliver, and I don't know that Oliver is going to be draftable after the year, only because he's 5'8", 5'9", and those things don't matter as much in the NCAA as they do to NFL scouts. So I don't know about Archer. I mean, Archer, I think, will find his place in professional football, whether it's the NFL or the CFL. I don't know. I've given up pretending to know what players, other than like the guys like Mac. Mac's going to get drafted and he'll get a shot. Other than guys like that who have NFL dimensions, it's tough to know.
I think I like Archer better than Bo because he has that small size and that speed. And so you look at like an Andrew Hawkins on Cincinnati, a T.Y. Hilton from Indianapolis from FIU, Trendon Holiday, those guys who can play that slot wide receiver, kick return role. They can easily find their way on NFL roster. Where Oliver is going to really have to try to go as a punt blocker or a number 3 or 4 running back, and they don't carry as many running backs than that slash position that Archer can play. So I don't think he gets drafted, but I think he can find his way on.
Thanks, Conrad. Thanks, Tim. Hey, Conrad, you decided to watch a MAC game. So talk about a future MAC opponent that we have. Tell me about their strengths, their weaknesses, and what we see in the future.
I watched 2 last week. I'm kind of feeling okay about not having Akron on the schedule because they look better. They can't tackle still, but they look a little better. But the game I focused on was Toledo-Ball State. That was a slugfest, and it went back and forth. And really, Toledo could have won that game by 2 touchdowns, but they are very sloppy. And it's early in the MAC season, so you're going to expect that. Ball State is a machine right now on offense, questionable on defense, but they can throw it to 2 or 3 different receivers, and they can run it. We don't play them. So Toledo, they're the same Toledo team they were last year. They're going to beat you up with the running back from Lockport, David Fluellen, and they have a big threat wide receiver. So this is going to be more. It's going to really attack our strengths. We're going to have to stop the run game up the middle, and then keep a safety back, which we've had trouble with, and protect against the big play in the passing game. And we're also going to have to cover on special teams if we don't get that touchback that we got last week. So Toledo is a team that really attacks us at our threats, and they also have a quarterback who's mobile. So that's another one of our weaknesses. So they look scary, but they were sloppy. I think the best thing that we have going to it for us is that Toledo, in the MAC West, they're getting all their big slugfest games out in the beginning of the season. So Ball State Toledo that's a November Thursday night game. It was played in the beginning of the MAC season. So Fluellen's been beat up, and a lot of their team is getting nicked up because they're playing hardcore games right now. When they come to us, we're going to be through the easy part of our schedule going into Toledo. So we're going to hopefully be a little bit more well rested and healthy for that game, and that might be the determining factor. But it's going to be at Toledo, and I mean they look like the same team that just out physical us last year. So we'll have to see on that game.
So who right now, if you have to say one team, so just one quick answer, who's the beast of the East in the MAC East? Tim?
No, I'm going to stick with Bowling Green, primarily because I was reading an article today. I came across that Ohio, once again, is having a lot of injury trouble in the middle. And it seems to be kind of the way they roll, and maybe Conrad has a better memory than I do on these things. But it seems to me every year for the past few years, they started out pretty strong and then get either the offensive line or the defensive line just get banged up and they kind of fade. And Bowling Green is healthy, experienced. They're catching it when they have that loss against Indiana that was just humiliating, and maybe that was a wake-up call to them, and they've straightened up whatever they had going into that game. Unless Kent comes up a lot or Ohio gets healthy real fast, I don't see who gets in Bowling Green's way.
Conrad, beast of the East?
Right. If you're talking right now, I'm saying Ohio. They look like the better team. They also don't. Their rival game will be Miami, and Bowling Green, unfortunately, has to play Toledo. So that's going to be a big advantage for Ohio. But I agree. As Tim said, as time goes on, it seems Bowling Green-style play can last through November, where Ohio's style seems to always fade out in November. So right now, Ohio, but definitely, as Tim said, if I'm projecting to who's going to win it, I'm looking Bowling Green right now.
Safest pick I've ever heard in my life, Conrad. Good for you. Way to be so vanilla. Yeah, exactly. That's what you did. You picked.
Well, it's either going to be
good call there.
Bowling Green or Ohio. Kent could come along and do something. Buffalo's starting to look strong.
And
you never know.
Buffalo gets hot.
So anyone but UMass at this point. Yeah, I think so.
I'm there.
Sorry, guys. I'm traveling, so I've got a bad connection here, so I'm in and out. So I'm back. Sorry, I'm sitting in a hotel in downtown Chicago. I got a bad connection. I want to talk about the game this week. So, gentlemen, it's been a long time since we've been able to look at a game this weekend and feel very comfortable about a victory. it's been a long time since we've looked at a MAC team coming into Buffalo and being a 13 or a 2-touchdown favorite. So again, I'll go to CONrad first. So CONrad, put you in the spot. Tell me about the game this weekend. Tell me what your thoughts are. Why does UB do well? Why could EMU win? So tell me about what's your breakdown of the game this weekend between EMU and UB.
This is a game that UB should dominate in the same way they dominated last week, getting at the quarterback, stopping the run, forcing passing in that doesn't want to pass into beating you. The reason why UB loses this game is the same way they've lost most of these games, is by not putting the pressure on, playing it safe, playing off the wide receivers. So, and on the offensive side, it's going to ride with Bo again. He needs to be able to run the ball relatively well. We can take our few shots downfield to Newts, who hasn't been the same guy he was in Texas, but I don't know if that's the defense rolling towards him, or if that's something going on between Alex Newts and Joe Licata, but I don't know if there's much analysis in this game required. If Quinn coaches the game plan that works, this should be an easy victory.
We all hope it's an easy victory. Again, we're hoping, I think all of us would love to see Quinn step up, put a great game plan out there, and dominate that. So, Tim, obviously, interesting situation. UB home, favored to win a MAC game. Tell me, Tim, why does UB win this game, or why does UB struggle? Love to hear your insight on this game.
Well, I mean, UB wins if Newts comes up big this week. I think we definitely need that. And it's hard to look at UConn and say Newts didn't come up big, because if you think about it, we had like, 3 plays in the first quarter, and the game was over by the fourth quarter. So Newts was really only in there 2 quarters. And in the third quarter, I mean, how much work was really thrown at Newts? How much did we need Newts? I mean, the second half, it seemed like we were just trying to kill clock almost the whole half. So UB wins if Newts comes up big and the passing game reappears. We're going to need that. Oliver needs to 90, 100 yards. James Potts, I noticed, is listed as the backup this week. So hurrah if Potts gets in there and looks like, he's shown glimpses of throughout his injury-studded career at UB. He's a nice change of pace from Oliver. He's still a big, strong guy, but he runs a little different. I'd like to see him get 5, 10 carries, 30, 40, 50 yards, somewhere in there. If UB can balance out their attack, and if, as CONrad said, if they keep the pass rush up, they're going to win. I have that feeling. On the flip side, how do they lose? Well, Ron English is 2-0 against Jeff Quinn. And I'm going to keep harping on this. As bad as EMU can look, they are a balanced bad, right? They don't have one receiver you can key on. They got 3 or 4 guys that are pretty much interchangeable. They got 2 running backs that both are equally effective. One is a bit better than the other. Those are not the kind of teams that we tend to do well on, because those require more complex defensive schemes, and let's put Najee on their best receiver, or let's put Adam Redden over here. You can't scheme against that as easily, because English does a good job of shifting his tactics through a game, and that's how they've beaten us the other 2 times. Both games, I think UB was favored in the first game against EMU that Quinn played English, and that was at UB. Buffalo was favored, and did we win? No, we lost, and we lost pretty badly. EMU managed to run the ball down our throats both times we've played them in the past 3 years. And if they do that again, I don't see us winning. UConn couldn't run the ball. That was all the difference in the game right there. They can't run the ball, which made Tepper feel safe to go ahead and go after the quarterback, and that ended their offense. EMU can run the ball, and that's going to be a big difference.
Hey, CONrad, tell me, interesting situation here. This is excited about this weekend. I think we all expect UB to win. So, CONrad, give me what do you think is going to happen this weekend, and if UB wins, why do they win? If they come up short, why do they come up short?
Well, this is Tepper's first shot at EMU since he started last year. So I think we can throw out some of the history. I think it actually plays to our kind of advantage that he's more conservative. That the thing I'm most worried about from EMU is turnovers or a big play, something that gives them the confidence. If, like I said, I think we play this game straight, we should have a similar game as last week. It's a very similar team to UConn. The only standout I can think of is Bronson Hill, who's had some very good games in the past 2 years, and he's had some very mediocre games. We make him mediocre. EMU, we should suffocate them on defense. I predict this to be a 40-13 UB victory, another big blowout game. And there's nothing I've seen that says that EMU is on the same tier as Tim puts it in his math rankings. I don't think EMU is on the same tier as Buffalo when Buffalo's playing the way they should. The only one who can beat us right now, I think, is Buffalo. If we're playing offense like we played against Stony Brook, we're playing defense like we played against Stony Brook, it's going to be a much closer game. We're seeing the Buffalo team that came out against Ohio State or UConn. It shouldn't be close.
We all agree. I think this is a game that UB should win. Again, we're all having a very guarded heart here because of the past. We hope UB wins. Moving on to that, let's talk about let's put some rubber to the road. Let's predict this game. So I'm going to go back to Conrad. Conrad, you kind of talked about what you think should happen, but give me your prediction of what happens this weekend, and officially, the BruwPeg. Give me your what happens with this game. Give me your prediction.
Well, my prediction last week was off. Too conservative. We scored touchdowns, which I did not see coming. We converted all our extra points, which I did not see coming. Must have fixed that swinging gate we had opening through our line. This week, I'm really looking for, as Tim, I think, said, I'm looking for Newts. It's been a weird 2 weeks for him. But he's been open, and that touchdown grab he had was wide open. If it was, I don't know, it was 20, 25 yards, it could have been 60, 70 yards. He was wide open. So, and we had the similar look again on the touchdown pass to Fred Lee. So we obviously have something working. And what I'm hoping is each week we've had a different progression. So against Stony Brook, we had a lot of short. Well, I guess against Baylor, we had a lot of long throws. Against Stony Brook, we had a lot of short throws. Against UConn, we had more long throws again. So do we go back to the short throws this week while EMU prepares to drop their safeties back and protect against the deep ball? I'm thinking that might be where we're going. So I'm looking for a big day from Newts. If they're going to target him another 10 times like they did against Stony Brook for short gains, it's going to be up to him on yards after the catch. If that happens, then we're encouraging the defense to move up and protect against the short pass game. That gives opportunity for Bo to break longer runs. He gets past that first 5-yard area, and then the secondary is up close, as we saw in the Ohio State game. There's nothing but green grass after you break that first level if you bring the guys up. So the way I see it is, another 10-catch game for Newts for not many yards, maybe 50 to 70 yards, where I'm looking for a breakout game from Brandon Oliver. And then on defense, I'm looking for the same thing we had last week, a swarm defense, getting turnovers, giving EMU no time to even try to compete in this game. I'm looking, like I said, a 40-13 victory, a couple touchdowns from Brandon Oliver, a couple more turnovers, and a big day from Alex Newts. I look to him to get open or to get free for one of those short passes and turning him into a long game.
Connor, that's great. You call 40-13. Have the fun. Tell me exactly how you 14 and how EMU gets 13. So tell us how that happens.
I really think that EMU is going to get out to a quick touchdown, and then I think we're going to hold them back for 2 field goals the second and third quarter. They've had the tendency to die off in the fourth quarter. If you remember, I guess the year that didn't happen, 2000, the Chaz Anderson year, 2010, that was the year I think we went almost the whole season without scoring in the first and the fourth. So I have kind of an eye for a team that can't start or finish, and EMU is kind of the team that I think they can start, but they can't finish yet. So that's the 13 for EMU, 7-3-3 in the first 3 quarters. For Buffalo, I'm looking for a pretty balanced effort, a 21-10 halftime lead, 3 touchdowns, 2 from Bo, 1 from Alex Newts, and then kind of coasted in a couple more field goals and I guess that would make it 4 field goals and a touchdown. Maybe another one from Fred Lee while they cover up for Newts. I was kind of impressed by Clark. Just hopefully his leg is plenty deep. We just got to make sure that accuracy is up. So I think Quinn won't hesitate to give him those 4 field goal attempts. Try to go 4 for 4 this week.
Again, Conrad, I'll say this once, I'll say this again. There's zero mention of the year 2010 ever again. So if you ever say anything about 2010 again, I will banish you.
All right, I got 24-21. I just, I don't want my heart to be jaded, so I'm not going to predict the blowout because if Jeff Quinn blows out 2 teams back to back, I don't know. I'm going to go play the lottery or something. I see EMU tying it with a fourth quarter drive at 21-all because we all know how well Buffalo's done against fourth quarter drives to tie games or win games. And then I see Patrick Clark being the difference in overtime. So he'll earn his MVP status again. And that's what I see happening this week.
I like that. It's nice to be able to have a conversation. The reason why I started BruwPeg was because the year that I will not mention, I had no idea what was going to happen. So I wanted to know what everyone thought. So CONrad and I agree on the score of EMU 13, but I'm going to go 27 points. So I've got Bo with 2 touchdowns. I've got Lee with 1. So Newts is going to have a little bit of a tough game. And then 2 touchdowns or 2 field goals by Clark. So I have UB winning this game 27-13. I'm not as generous as CONrad is 40-13. So 27-13. CONrad, you're 40-13. And Tim, your score again is, Tim?
24-21.
Ooh, 24-21.
Newts had a touchdown catch every game this year, so you're taking that. You're in the streak right now.
The odds are in my favor. Tell me it doesn't feel good. Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. Where Fred Lee and Newts both try to catch the ball at the same time. But it does feel nice. I mean, here's the one thing that I listen. I was really tough last week on Jeff Quinn. I was over the top. I called it a joke. The reason why I was so upset was because there's talent on this team. There's different makers. And I think all of us, the frustration that's bubbled up, and maybe I've said some things that I regret, but the thing that has frustrated me in the past is because we've got players, UB's got players who are great, solid individuals. They're great playmakers. They should be winning this game. This is what should happen. That's the most frustrating team. If they didn't have talent, then my expectations would be low. They've got playmakers on this team, and that's where the frustrating part was. Is when you lose as bad as they did, we should be winning games. So again, should UB win the next 3, 4, 5 games? Yes, absolutely. But the problem though is Quinn, show it to me before I believe it.
Okay.
No, I think the contract renewal, CONrad took the hot seat out of the equation. And like it's kind of like I feel like this week, even if we had lost, I don't think this was a hot seat week for Quinn. I think this game kind of meant Quinn's getting the rest of this year and maybe next year, and that's what the renewal meant. I do think he has a chance to kill quite a few coaches along the way this year. I think if we pummel EMU, English might be on his way out. Was it Treadwell at Miami? I think he could be in a lot of trouble. Is Molinar the coach over at UMass? No, they have a couple things going on. They not only have they been awful, but now they have that winter conditioning video, which has gotten out and makes that program look none too good. So it's going to be interesting to see what Jeff Quinn can do to several MAC coaches this season, if indeed he finally has got the traction he needs to make this team start winning.
See, I was okay with the win until afterwards, and I felt like there was a sense of Quinn has now got an FBS win against an AQ team, and it's like a mandate that Quinn is the coach for us, and that makes me uncomfortable because this is not that was not the goal. The goal is you have to get the 6 wins. The easy way to get the 6 wins: EMU, WMU, Miami, UMass, and the 2 we already have. So until that is done, I don't think Quinn has done a good job, and I don't like the fact we lose against EMU, we win the other 3, we go 5-7, and I can see the tweets already that we've gone 5-7, we're on the cusp of 6-6. We beat an AAC team, like all the positive talking points on the mediocre season. And then we all know that the talent cliff is coming. We saw, I mean, EMU, this is the poster child. EMU went 6-6. They beat Buffalo.
Oh,
They
that
beat
was
the teams they had to
FCS
beat.
teams.
There's 2 FCS teams, but I mean that's what we're doing really. We beat UConn, who's one of the worst teams in the league. We beat UMass, which is barely FCS. We beat an FCS team barely. So I mean, our 6 wins, even if we won 5 of those games, 5 and 7, that's not going to be a remarkable feat. But I already get a sense that it's going to be treated that way by the administration and by some of our fan base, and that makes me uncomfortable. We beat UConn, and the players who played in the game did an amazing thing. The coaching staff just won 1 game, and that's, I can't stress it enough. All the bad things I said, I do not take back. You exceeded my expectations by having a competent game plan with 2 weeks of practice for it, and that's such a sad fact. And that some people are sharing the fact makes it even sadder. That our act like we've been there before is the theme of my week, and we're so beaten down that blowout of UConn is enough to make us feel really good, and it's really sad. Go back to 2009, go back to UB Fan 2009, Bull Run 2009. We were not happy with 5 and 7. We were a better team with more talent, and we were holding our coaching staff, the one that took us to a championship year before, accountable for all that. Now we're back to playing minor league and just being happy we're in the game, and I'm not there yet. So that game. So I'm kind of upset. Like I don't want that to be the legacy of the UConn game. It's not a talking point. 6-6 is the only talking point I'm happy about. And even then, I think we should get 7-5. We got the UConn game. It should be 7-5.
That type of la isn't everything great? That's pretty much the standard for athletic departments. Let's face it. If UB went 0-12, but Khalil Mack gets drafted 9th, it'd be like, what a mile marker for this program that is to get a player drafted in the first round. We're going to see that from Akron this year. We're going to see it from Western Michigan. We're going to see it from EMU. A week and a half ago, Ward Manuel was giving his blessing to the coach at UConn, saying, no, we're not going to make the move. This is the right thing to do. So, I'm not jaded by our team, but I'm jaded by PR. And we all know who we're talking about when we say certain elements of our fan base will cheer no matter what happens. I think we all have some certain people in mind. And that's true. If we went 0-12, if there was just one nice thing to glean from the season, that would be seen as what it is. Like I said, I lost all hope of this being a make or break season with the extension. So that's why I'm not really tweaked up for any of these games as far as what's it mean for Quinn. Quinn's future is secure at least until January and probably until the January after that. Yeah, I'm where CONrad is. I don't like the attitude that like this is amazing. I think UConn is easily the worst team we've played since we played Morgan State last year. I just going to lay it out there. They are worse than Stony Brook. They are worse than UMass was last year. They were just they look like a high school team out there, and they look like a high school team against Townsend. And because they caught Michigan sleeping, and so did Akron, everyone seems to think that maybe there was something building at UConn, but they got nothing. That program is just completely off the rails. So I look at that as we beat someone in the scrimmage from like Sweet Home High. It's not indicative of all of future success.
Don't make fun of Sweet Home too bad, because CONrad is a Sweet Home alumni. But one of my first managers gave me something which I didn't understand until many years later. He said, "There's no future in futures." And I had no idea what the hell he was talking about until many years later, where it got to me like, you got to make it now. And the hyper on, this is it. So again, I'm putting all my eggs in 2013 basket, because if we don't do it this year, I'm not even looking forward to next year. I have no idea who the hell Okada's going to throw to next year.
I mean, I'm a big optimist too. But I mean, even if we went 4-8 this year, I'd be back in the spring talking about how hyped and talking about who we're going to throw to, someone we've never heard of, and telling you guys how he's the best. When he played at junior college or something. But for now, I just want to say UConn did not make our season. Ohio State could have made our season. Baylor, for what the team Baylor is, could have made our season. this is not that AQ. That's not that kind of AQ victory. So our season can't be made by one game anymore. It has to be made by six victories. And I won't really be on that level happens until we get it. So we beat EMU. This is all invalidated if we lose WMU. We beat EMU and WMU, we have to beat UMass. It has to continue. And he really has to build back all that trust game by game, continually doing this, because we've seen this act before, the 1 week flurry of genius, just so you can be held on to, he's still a genius, he has it, our team's good, we have talent, but we're going to lose to act. So I'm still, very, very on the outside of the NYBI Happy Times trail. But hopefully we get there.
I can't say anything about what CONrad said. I would say 6 wins at a minimum. I would also add he needs to steal either Ohio, Kent, or Bowling Green. And I think if you do that, you have 7 wins and you've beaten one of the other top 3 MAC East teams. You can say, you know what? He put together a decent team this year, and that's all we could have asked of him given what we've seen for 2 years. Like CONrad, I'm an optimist, Dave. You say you're not going to be excited about next year, but man, that summer's long, and then football comes, and you're just relieved for those first few games, and that's how they suck you every year. I'm not that pessimistic about next year because we have a line, right? And that's the kind of football I like. If you have a solid line, if you're not losing a lot of linemen next year, you have the chance to throw the ball around. You give a quarterback enough time, he'll hurt you. So I don't want to start talking about next year. I just want to get through next week with this coaching staff. One win at a time, baby. Until we're to 6 or 7, it's all provisional excitement.
Great point. And unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, we had a guest blogger from EMU who's going to join us tonight. Unfortunately, he has not made it tonight, so we apologize about that. Next week, we promise we'll have a blogger from Western Michigan. But we'll end this right now. We'll kind of wrap this up. We're going to do our shout-outs. So, Tim, CONrad, anybody want to jump up and give us our thoughts and our shout-outs to all the people, the tens of thousands of people watching this video?
I want to give a shout out to whoever took Danny White's keyboard away so that he did not tweet exciting news about the black uniforms. Because the UB Athletic Department has a real tendency to put big news around everything and hype up even small things. And it makes it hard to believe them. I liked the uniforms. I honestly thought they were sharp, and I was not a fan of the black outlook or wonky uniform week look, but they look sharp, and the fact it was just kind of like out of nowhere, I thought was a nice move by the department.
CONrad?
Well, before I get there, I love the black look. I wish they had hyped it up more. I remember a couple years ago, Ohio did a video where they unveiled it to their players, and they all jumped around. Players love the alternative uniforms. We got to get into that game. Those jerseys brought the worst in everyone. My Twitter was like, I was on permanent eye roll because you have the people who use that still complain about the Buffalo logo, the New York State logo, because they had a new jersey to complain that the same patch was on it. And then you have the people who don't like black. Aren't our official colors blue and white? I've heard that. So the kids like. I'm in the shadow of the Oregon team, and it's amazing what shiny helmets and colors can get you. And it's stupid to ignore that because you're 60 years old and you like tradition, and the kids that are 18 don't. So I love it. I wish they did do the amazing news, and I could wear my black Bull shirt, the only one I have from 2004. Maybe we flirted with it, but we couldn't afford it back then. So I was stuck wearing blue like an idiot. So I wasn't happy about that, but I love that, and that was a great shout out. I'm going to actually give my shout out to the fans. The ones especially who came back after that awful Stony Brook 5 overtime game. You were treated to a game you deserved. It was a weekend. Either this weekend or next weekend, I really wanted to get back home because it was a good Bills, Bulls, Sabres time of year to be back in Buffalo. I didn't make it either weekend. And I was really upset because the Bills won, the Bulls won. They both played really well. That would have been a great time to go home. And anyone who made it to the games and supported the Bulls, you guys did a shout out. I'm Also going to shout out anyone going to back to Buffalo next weekend for the homecoming game. The family's coming out for the family weekend. And to the athletic department for merging those two events back into one again. I remember the Army game during the good season, 2008, where that building was packed for a game. That usually by game 3 or 4, it starts to empty out and it's very quiet. And I just remember that game. I feel like the crowd helped that game turn around as we were getting turnovers, getting back into that game into overtime. We had a big crowd that was there fueling us. So I'm looking forward to another big crowd that merges the families, the parents, and the alumni coming back, getting us a good 20,000 paid and 20,000 in the seats this weekend.
Thank you, Conrad. My shout-out's going to be very quick. My shout-out is to the players who give it their all on the field. I've been very critical of this team. I've been critical of the coaching staff. I was very proud to be a Bulls fan last weekend. I was very proud to see UB put a great effort on the field. In a shutout, yes, UConn has got a lot of advantages UB doesn't have. I was very proud to be a Bulls fan on the weekend. So that is my shout-out saying thank you, players. Get a shout-out, or we'll get a back and forth next week if we can. But for that, it's been a wonderful week. It's a great week. And hey, it's a victory week. So go Bulls. So for part of David, Conrad, and Tim, thank you very much for watching Last Bull In. Everybody have a great night. Conrad, let's end the video.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.